All right, welcome back to the channel, man. We have got a great pay-per-view coming up this weekend with Jermall Charlo, fighting Sergey Devrevyanchenko and Jeison Rosario. We got Jeison Rosario and Jermell. It's just going to be a great evening of fights. You also have Luis Neri on the card. So there obviously is a lot of really great fights, and there's a lot of tension. Jermall Charlo snapped on Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated and DAZN about asking him some BS questions, and in doing so really shows a lot of the problems with the media that we have in boxing, and why I feel it's like so necessary to tell you how incredible this fight card is. It's one of the best fight cards pay-per-view that there's been in years, and people aren't appreciating it because of guys like Chris Mannix. But let's talk about what happened in that interview with Jermall Charlo and DAZN lackey Chris Mannix in this video. All right, welcome back. So, Jermall Charlo is going to be fighting Sergey Devrevyanchenko for the WBC 160-pound title that Jermall Charlo holds. And it's going to be on a pay-per-view along with his brother Jermell Charlo, who is facing Jeison Banana Rosario for 3 belts, the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF 154-pound belts. So great night of fights. And obviously there's a lot of tension in the air because in one of the rare bits of publication that there's been, rare bit of promotion that there's been from mainstream media for this fight, Jermall Charlo snaps on Chris Mannix. And if you're not familiar with who Chris Mannix is, dude, Chris Mannix is one of the more obnoxious, in my opinion, I find him to be one of the more obnoxious, arrogant, condescending sports announcers in all of TV. He is like if he really was a fan of boxing when he was growing up, which I doubt, you know what I mean? Which I doubt, because he has like almost no respect for boxers. But he would be one of these guys that looked up to Larry Merchant. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had like Larry Merchant, somebody like Larry Merchant is a mentor, man. Just, he's on these DAZN telecasts with Sergio Mora, and Sergio Mora is a former world champion, professional fighter. Chris Mannix ain't never been in a boxing ring in his life. And if he did, it was once or twice. Come on, man. But he actually acts insulted, like he's insulted that Sergio Mora would deign to question any of his ideas about boxing. And he just picks fights with Sergio Mora. So in true Chris Mannix style, he started some stuff with Jermall Charlo, and Jermall Charlo was like, look, man, I don't know what you're asking me. Why are you asking these irrelevant questions? It got nothing to do with my fight. But this is some nonsense gossip that you've been hearing off of YouTube or something like that that's unverified, and you're not talking about my fight. And if you keep doing this, I'm going to walk out of this interview. Like, just straight checked him. Chris Mannix was stuttering, like, yeah, I think you're a great fighter, but I was just asking the questions, right? He was like, man, it was hilarious. But what were the questions? What were the questions that the man asked, though? He asked about, he started leaning in, he started off well, asking questions about, his journey in boxing and, what does he think about his career to date? Just kind of like off questions, nothing really about like, the fight with Sergey Devrevyanchenko, his style, this, that, or the other thing. I mean, maybe they kid on a little bit, but he starts asking Jermall about his brother Jermell. Like, what is it like to be on a co-main event or co-main event pay-per-view with your brother? And then he went a little deeper. It's like, with you as a champion and him as a champion, do you ever feel any animosity or, like that? He didn't like straight out say that, but that was what he's asking. It's like, is there any type of jealousy and animosity and boiling hatred between the two of you guys? Is there any beef that we can have? Now, why would he ask that? That's what ticked off Jermall Charlo, right? But why would he ask that? Why would he ask that? This is what I'm telling you. These media dudes, man, they act like they're so above it, but they are absolutely positively not above it. And I promise you, these dudes are in comment sections of videos being just straight up and down trolls, okay? Because Chris Mannix, that is just straight troll stuff. Now, what happened? Jermall Charlo had some issue around, and first of all, Jermell Charlo is just a live wire, period. He's a live wire with everybody. He wants to fight all the time, everybody, anywhere, all the time. I've literally never seen Jermell Charlo ever look like he was in a good mood. Now, he might be laughing and people around him might know he's in a good mood, but even if he's in a good mood, you that quick from him snapping on you at all times. So the fact that somebody was sticking his camera in his face and asked him something about Lions Only, I don't know if it was Lions Only Promotions, but one of the two brothers got like a YouTube, some brand related stuff, whatever. And Jermall saying his brand was slightly different than Jermell's brand, but just some brother stuff about whatever. I don't know. But that gossipy type of stuff went out and people were like, hey, he's beefing with him. Why are the brothers beefing? And, the type of stuff that people get into. People do want to talk about it. I said what I thought about it. It was like, look, dude, they're brothers. I'm sure that there's been worse. I have a brother, and me and my brother have fought. I mean, I have been very, very hot at my brother, said a bunch of stuff to my brother about my brother that, that's my brother and that's his brother. That's not for somebody else to be bringing up and trying to create a story about it on Sports Illustrated podcast. It was absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, they buried the interview at to the 35th minute of their podcast. These dudes took the podcast. Did they lead with the podcast? Lead with Jermall Charlo? No. What did they lead with? They led with Dan Rayfield. These guys are just so overtly just full of garbage, man. And I don't understand how anybody supports them. I do not get it. We don't need it at this time, in this age and day. We don't need it. But anyway, so Jermall snapped on him and said, hey, man, if you want to talk to me, you got to ask me about something that has something to do with this fight. And I'm going to walk off, or otherwise I'm going to leave. And that interview didn't last much longer after that. Now, interesting, like I said, it was at the very end of it was at the very end of the podcast. Now, maybe they had recorded that before. And since Jermall told him just to bug off, the interview didn't go as long as they wanted it to, so they filled it in with some other stuff at the beginning. But whatever the case was, man, it was just tacky on the part of Chris Mannix. This, and DAZN, because he works for DAZN, he works for Sports Illustrated. That's on Sports Illustrated. That's on DAZN. Same way when Chris Mannix spread that gossipy nonsense about Gervonta Davis punching Adrian Bronner's punching Adrian Bronner's cameraman or something like that. Some other thing that some gossipy stuff that Chris Mannix heard, and he decided he was just going to share with the world in the middle of a DAZN telecast. I'm sorry. That's not true. He didn't share it with the world because it was a DAZN telecast. He probably shared it with about 35,000 people. But hey, man, let's not let the image that they try to portray get in the way of reality. And the reality of those guys that are in the media, man, is that seriously, they're not that influential, right? Because if they were as influential as they pretend that they are, then ESPN wouldn't have the terrible numbers that they do. ESPN is constantly performed underneath Fox, relatively speaking, compared to Showtime, and definitely compared to Fox, have always underperformed. They underperformed when it was Golden Boy, before it was Top Rank. So why in the world would anybody be paying attention, to what guys like DAZN and these guys, and DAZN, the the people that are trying to sell their fighters, why would we pay any attention to them? These are the people that, like Peter King and HBO, that would talk about how he was going to keep his ears to the grinds, ears to the street, and pay attention to what the boxing writers have to say so that they can get the best fights. What was the answer? A super flyweight tournament. A super flyweight tournament. Superfly 1 and Superfly 2. Oh man, the boxing writers revolutionized boxing with that. And because not long thereafter, HBO got out of the business of boxing, dude. These people don't need to be listened to. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I commend my man Jermall Charlo for clowning that dude. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.